he said, you have wept before me, saying, why did we ever come out of Egypt? And Moses said to, verse 21, and Moses said, the people whom I am among are 600,000 men on foot. That's not even to mention women and children. Yet you have said, I will give them meat, that they may eat for a whole month. Shall flocks and herds be slaughtered for them, to provide enough for them? Shall all the fish of the sea be gathered together to them, to provide enough for them? Moses said, you're talking about 600,000 hungry men at that, wanting meat, not to mention women and children. Are you going to kill all the fish in the sea? Are we going to slaughter all the flocks? Moses is complaining himself here. And verse 23, the Lord said to Moses, has the Lord's arm been shortened? Now you shall see whether what I say will happen to you or not. So Moses went out and told the people the words of the Lord, and he gathered the 70 men of the elders of the people and placed them around the tabernacle. And the Lord came down in the cloud, and he spoke to him, and took of the spirit that was on him, Moses, and placed the same on the 70 elders. And it happened when the spirit rested on them that they prophesied, although they never did so again. They prophesied when the spirit of the Moses was placed upon them, and they were set in offices to oversee, to help Moses oversee and shepherd. They began shepherding with the spirit of prophecy, and they prophesied, but it says that they never did so again here. This was not an ongoing thing. Look at verse 26. But two men had remained in the camp, and you know what one was named Eldad, and the other one was named Medad, and the spirit rested upon them. Now they were among those listed, and you know what they did? These two men got jealous for Moses. Look at verse 27. And a young man ran and told Moses and said, Eldad and Medad are prophesying in the camp. God put that spirit on them, the spirit that was on Moses, and they were prophesying. So Joshua, look at verse 28. So Joshua the son of Nun, Moses' assistant, one of his choice men, answered and said, Moses, my Lord, forbid them. Forbid them. Eldad and Medad, forbid them from what? From prophesying. And Moses said to him, are you zealous for my sake? Jealous for me? Oh, that all God's people were prophets, and that that the Lord would put all the Lord's people were prophets, and that the Lord would put his spirit upon them. And Moses returned to the camp, both he and the elders of Israel. Now we know that there is a gift here, the gift of prophecy is operating, and God was saying, oh, that all God's people were able to stand and prophesy and speak forth, prophesy to tell, to speak forth the mind of God. Oh, that all God's people could do it, so that we could move in sync and in unison with the purposes of God. He says, don't be jealous of me, because God has taken of my spirit and put on these men. Don't be jealous of me. He said, I need more people that can step up and stand in this place and help bear this burden and move these people. Don't get jealous for me. He was not saying that all God's people are going to rise up and just stand in the office of a prophet. That's not what he said. He was saying that the spirit of prophecy would come upon all God's people, so they could see. A prophet is a seer, so that they can see and not hinder the progress of what God is doing. So the Lord sent out the quail, and as you know, the quail made the people just sit. Verse 31, and I want to get down to verse 34. Well, let's read verse 33. They ate their fill in verse 33, but while the meat was still between their teeth, before it was chewed, the wrath of God was aroused against the people, and the Lord struck the people with a very great plague. Appetite can take you to a place where you can be literally, before you even swallow what you're lusting for, death can be in the pot. Death can be in the pot. You can literally be destroying yourself with your own mouth, with your own fork and spoon. Look at verse 34. So he called the name of that place Kilbroth Hatava, because there they buried the people who had yielded to craving. Graves of craving. That's what that word means. They buried the people who yield to appetite. Let's keep moving. Verse chapter 12. Then Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moses because of the Ethiopian woman which he had married. for he had married an Ethiopian woman. So they said, has the Lord indeed spoken only to Moses? Has he not spoken through us also? And the Lord heard it. You got to be really careful, even what you say in secret about those who God has placed over you. Cushite, Pastor said, we want to emphasize that she was a Cushite, the Ethiopian woman, which she was a black woman. Look at verse 3. Now, the man Moses was very humble, more than all men who were on the face of the earth. Suddenly the Lord said to Moses, Aaron and Miriam, come out, you three, to the tabernacle of meeting. So the three came out, and the Lord came down in the pillar of cloud. Can you imagine? God said, I got a record with you. Come here. I got an account to settle with you. And then the cloud comes down, and Yahweh begins to speak. The cloud, the pillar of cloud, and stood at the door of the tabernacle and called to Aaron and Miriam, and they both went forward. Verse 6. And this is what the Lord said. Hear now my words. If there is a prophet among you, I, the Lord, make myself known to him in a vision. I speak to him in a dream. But not so with my servant Moses. He is faithful in all my house. I speak with him face to face, even plainly, and not in dark sayings. And God does speak to prophets in dark sayings. And these dark sayings, actually I can do a whole series on dark sayings. They're shrouded. They're not dark from the kingdom of darkness. They're dark in the sense that God gives us here a little, there a little, a piece here, a piece there, a dream, a vision, a word of knowledge. And so our understanding has to be enlightened, because it's riddles, yes, riddles, enigmas, riddles. But with Moses, he says, I speak face to face. Look at verse 8. I speak with him face to face, even plainly, and not in dark sayings. And he sees the form of Yahweh. Why then were you not afraid to speak against my servant Moses? So the anger of the Lord was aroused against them, and he departed. And when the cloud departed from above the tabernacle, suddenly Miriam became leprous, as white as snow. Then Aaron turned toward Miriam, and there she was, a leper. So Aaron said to Moses, Oh my Lord, please do not lay this on us, in which we have done foolishly, and that we have sinned. Please do not let her be as one dead, whose flesh is half consumed when he comes out of the womb. And Moses cried out to the Lord, Please heal her, O God, I pray. What happens here? Miriam, who was Moses' brother, and Moses' sister. Aaron was Moses' brother. Miriam was a prophet. Aaron was a priest. They got together and spoke against Moses, whom God speaks to face. God was so offended that he struck Miriam with leprosy. Aaron was not struck with leprosy, but Miriam was. But Aaron took on the burden. And I said, God, what was happening here? Why was Miriam struck with leprosy? Why did she become a leper? He said the way to a man's heart, if he loves a woman, is to strike the woman. The woman is his weakness. The woman is him. And even though she was not his wife, she was his sister. And she was very close to him. And he said, when I struck her, it was really judgment for both of them. In fact, Aaron, she was instigator and she was a prophetess. Aaron was a priest. But she stood in the office of a prophet. And she took her gift because God was showing her some things too. And she began to judge Moses and talk about Moses. And God was establishing here, talk about Moses' wife. She was talking about his wife, but in talking about his wife, he took that personal. You want to hurt a man, you talk about his wife. You want to get next to a man, you hurt his wife. And so in talking about his wife, there was a direct assault on Moses. And because God said the two were one. And so even though he talked about his wife, God saw that as criticizing Moses. And so God was setting a proper order here. He said, even though you're a prophet, Miriam, even though you're a prophetess, you do not have a right to put your mouth on those that I have placed over you. I speak to you in dark sayings. I give you a little bit here, a little bit there. But you be careful. You walk a fine line. And you do not break my order. And God went on to say, her father would have spit in her face. If her father had spit in her face, she would have been put out of the camp for 7 days.